Hi, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Kibin Alleyne, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, with the rise in inflation, many people are worried about managing their grocery budgets. A Nutrition and Culinary Education Manager from City Harvest shares her advice on how to shop smart. Then the Dementia Program Director for MJHS Menorah Center for Rehabilitation Nursing Care shares advice on how to protect a loved one with dementia from sundowning. After that, the organization Vanmoto Media offers a program to help and guide students when they are applying to film schools. The founder of Vanmoto Media sits down with us to speak more about this program. And finally, the Senior Vice President of SONYMA at New York State HCR joins us in the studio to speak more on their efforts to increase home ownership. So stay tuned, all this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Kibin Alleyne and today is Tuesday, June 18th. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. City Harvest continues its mission to educate New York City on the importance of nutritional education. The organization offers classes tailored for adults, teens, and children. Nutrition Culinary Education Manager for City Harvest, Geraldine Fermin, joins me to discuss this initiative, tips for buying groceries on a budget, and how to read nutrition labels. Geraldine, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about City Harvest and its overall mission?
City Harvest is New York City's oldest food rescue organization, and our trucks are out there every day rescuing food for New Yorkers. This year, we are supposed to rescue 77 million pounds of food to be distributed at our different markets, food pantries, churches. I mean, we distribute a lot around New York City.
Now, we've discussed on our show many times before, just talking about food insecurity. I'd like to explore the effects of food insecurity on our health. Can you tell me a little bit more about that in occurrence?
Sure. I think that once people feel a little food insecure, the first thing that they usually cut off is our fruits and vegetables. Unfortunately, the prices for food have risen a lot, and fruits and vegetables sound like they're a little more expensive because you're talking about something that you get by pound versus buying food somewhere else. And you say, well, I'm only going to spend $2 for this, but you're spending $2 on something that is probably 6 ounces versus getting a pound of fresh fruit or a vegetable to include in your diet.
And I also like to add that, I think for a lot of people, this can add a lot of stress and confusion about like, what should I buy? What food item is going to last a little bit longer? Because I know for fruits and vegetables, sometimes in lower income neighborhoods, they're not always fresh, which also deters people from, eating healthy. With that in mind, what should people do to begin, just planning for a grocery shopping trip, just to ensure that they're saving the most money, but also buying things that they need?
We want to buy things in season. That is the first thing. We want to buy local, we want to buy in season. When things are not in season, we want to turn to frozen. Frozen food is not as bad as people think. If it's not seasoned or if there's not anything added, frozen food is frozen at its peak of ripeness, and it's actually pretty good. And sometimes you might be surprised how mangoes could be better if they're frozen versus something that you buy fresh that could either be too mushy or it could be too green. And I think that frozen and canned food sometimes is viewed as being bad, when in reality, if you get something that has a no sodium added version, you get something that is on sale, things are going to last a little longer. And that it's also something important that we eliminate food waste, because we're using our $100 to make these purchases, but then if we are wasting the food, we're wasting our money.
Right. Now, what can people do, or what are some tips people can use to help them budget?
I think that the first thing that you need to do before you go anywhere for food shopping is look at what you have and plan meals around it. And I don't recommend meal planning like people do for the entire week. I mean, plan recipes. Okay, with this I'm going to make a frittata. With this I'm going to make a pasta bake. With this I'm going to make a stir-fry rice or something of that nature, instead of thinking I'm going to cook for the entire week, because the chances are that by Friday you're not going to want to eat what you cook on Sunday, and then that it's going to end up going to waste. Or you could freeze it for a later time, and then you have a ready for whenever you're in a rush, and you just have to put that in the microwave or heat it up. And that is a way to also avoid buying food out, because you already have something that is prepared that you could heat up within a couple of minutes.
Now, when it comes to being health conscious, what should people keep in mind when navigating the supermarket?
I think that a couple of things that you could keep in mind is that the products that are not the most healthy for you are at eye level. Look up or look down. Sometimes the store brands that are equally good as other brands we know a little bit better could be on sale, and they're usually in the bottom or the top. If you look at the cereal aisle, for example, all the nice sugary, unhealthy, cute box cereals are at eye level of children. And some of them are our own eye level. And the ones that are our own eye level are the nostalgia ones, the ones that we used to have when we were children. But if you look up, you'll find the healthier granola, the healthier cereal. And then you could also look for the store brands that could save you a little bit of money.
Now, I'm curious to know, I also heard online that in a supermarket, like the outside is where all the healthier food or natural food is, and the middle is where you may have like more processed food. As you mentioned, the cereal boxes. Is that something that you've noticed? Just as somebody who works in this field and does a lot of grocery shopping, and aims to, be a little bit more conscious when they're shopping. Have you noticed that supermarkets will also do that, where they'll have the healthier food on the outside? And then the unhealthy food in the middle?
I have noticed it at certain supermarkets, but other supermarkets want to put outside whatever they want to get rid of first due to expiration dates, and that is another topic. Sometimes people think, oh, this is going to be bad tomorrow after the expiration date, and not necessarily. The food starts decreasing in quality, but it's perfectly edible for a while afterwards. So sometimes these things go on sale and it might expire in 2 weeks, but it will be good for a couple of months after the expiration date.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. Now, when we're talking about just becoming healthier, a lot of people may have issues with obesity or being overweight. That's definitely something that we experience a lot here in the Bronx. But people will turn to calorie counting or look at things like portion control. How important is calorie counting over portion control, and which one should those who are looking to be a little bit more healthier prioritize?
I think with both, people have to look at their body build, their height. It is impossible that someone that is 6'5" will have to have the same calories as someone that is 5'2". You need more. You're bigger because you're taller. And I think you have to decrease the calories and the portions gradually, because you can't go from eating 10 ounces to 2 in one day. You're going to be hungry. You're going to be grouchy, you're going to get a headache. And I also think that what might work for one person doesn't work for the other. Some people come and tell me, oh no, well, I'm having cauliflower, but I hate cauliflower. I don't like cauliflower. Well, then eat broccoli, then eat another vegetable. There's a variety of fruits and vegetables. You have to look for what you like in order for it to enjoy it, because food should be enjoyable as well. So that, I think, it's one of the most important parts for me. And also cultural relevance. You want to make your own meals healthier, because you can't turn to adopt another culture or something that it's written on a paper that you don't want to eat. Because if you're not craving that, the first thing you're going to do, it's not eat it, waste it. Even if you cook it and you do your best, you might not want it because it doesn't look familiar to you.
Now, understanding nutrition labels is also very important to staying healthy. I know that in my personal life, this is something that I want to learn more about because there's so many numbers and so many things that we don't understand. And most people just look at the calorie number. But what are some other things people should look at when they're reading nutrition labels?
The first thing is actually the portion size.
Okay.
Because if we are going to consume a beverage, sometimes that beverage is 2.5 servings. And that is what makes it different. And also if you see a package, and I mean, sometimes you see something with chips or a cookie and it says 20 chips. And you're thinking, well, once I start eating, I'm gonna eat the entire bag. So you have to account for the fact that you're eating the entire bag. And also we wanna look at our saturated fat, which is the fat that it's going to affect our cholesterol. We want to look at the sodium. We want to look at the sugar. I mean, we will be surprised of how much sugar is in beverages, just in beverages. And when people tell me, oh, I want to cut back on soda, and I tell them, okay, use sparkling water. If you use regular water, you're going to lose that fizz that we like. But if you use sparkling water, you can maintain that while consuming less.
Now, all of this is so very educational, and I appreciate the fact that we get to talk about this. But I understand that the organization also offers educational classes for New Yorkers of all ages. Can you just tell me a little bit more about these classes and how you tailor it to your audience?
Yes, we have classes in schools. We have classes at senior centers. We have classes at community-based organizations, and we tailor them, and we have curriculums for all of those ages to make it fun, to make it enjoyable, to make the recipes adapt to the age. So we have the students participate not only in the lecture of the class, but on the hands-on experience of cooking. Children are proud when they make the food, and they will try it just because they're proud. Sometimes they don't want to try things because it's something that it's not familiar to them, but if they make it, they will be really proud. And then we have our seniors who have been cooking their entire life, and they discover something new. And I've seen it when I teach the classes and they come back and they said, last week I made what you told me and what you taught me in class, but I added this or I removed this. And that's also another thing. We want to tell people that recipes are a guideline. They're not set in stone. So when they're going to the supermarket to purchase food, they want to see what they have at home first to then go by based on what they want to make this recipe look like and taste like.
Now, how can people get more involved? And if parents have children that they want to learn a little bit more about this, how can they get their children involved?
So we have our website, cityharvest.org/cook, where there is involvement. There is involvement through volunteering. Sometimes if the class is not available in your neighborhood, you could volunteer and you could also learn on a hands-on experience in the class. It depends on the schools, where the schools are located, but community-based organizations and senior centers that have classes. I mean, I think it's all listed on our website for people to get involved in so many different ways.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and having this discussion. I know that here in the Bronx, just being a little bit healthier, food insecurity, all of those are things that we struggle with here. And I think it's so amazing that we have programs like this that are, just built to help educate the community on ways that they can be healthier. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. And people can find us at our mobile markets. And here in the Bronx, Melrose Houses and St. Mary's. They can visit us for a cooking demo and for food distribution.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. To learn more about their efforts and to see all the programs they offer, please go to their website at cityharvest.org. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Open after this.
Thank you, BronxNet. Congratulations on 30 years. What an amazing accomplishment. On behalf of myself, Alina Dow, and I represent the Dow Twins and the Dow Twins Show, who are young producers. They started, I think, when they were 11, and now they're 14. They started making 30-second little fun facts, and now they are doing 30-minute shows. And it goes to a testament of how much you guys do in the Bronx to make young people want to continue to be involved. I wish you 30 more amazing years and beyond. Thank you for what you do.
Only 57% of New York City high school students are college ready by their senior year. "55% of high school graduates either have no plans to attend college or are uncertain that they will ever attend. "34% of young adults don't go to college because they can't afford it. Discover what's possible. BronxNet's education programs, internships, and opportunities help engage and inspire Bronx youth and beyond to pursue their passions. Be a part of the BronxNet family. Whether you're interested in our shows, joining a class, or donating to support our mission, visit BronxNet.org to learn more.
Welcome back. As we approach the summer season, it's traditional to celebrate the warm weather with outdoor activities, music, and on some occasions, fireworks. But for those living with Alzheimer's, these moments can be overwhelming or stressful. The Dementia Program Director for the MJHS, Dr.Kendra Ray, joins me to discuss solutions, caregiver tips, and the types of events to keep in mind to ensure this summer is enjoyable for everyone. Doctor, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Now, can you give us a little bit of an overview on the services MJHS offers to those with Alzheimer's?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so pleased to work for MJHS Health System, which is a not-for-profit located in New York City. We offer an array of services, including MJHS health plans that are elder plan and home first. We also have MJHS hospice and palliative care, home care, and we have 2 skilled nursing facilities. One of them I work at is MJHS Menorah Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing Care, and our other nursing facility is located not too far from here in Washington Heights. It's MJHS Isabella Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing Care.
Now, I'd love if you could give us the medical definition of Alzheimer's disease, because I know that we hear the term and a lot of people think they know exactly what it is or how people living with Alzheimer's will react. But can you give us, just in your experience, true definition of what that is?
Yes, very simply put, Alzheimer's disease is a neurodegenerative disease, meaning that over time people will lose their memory. It affects both the mind and the body. One thing that people don't necessarily consider is that it not only affects the person who is living with Alzheimer's disease, but also the family unit.
And what are the different stages?
Right, so there are about 3 stages that people usually go through. There's the early stage, the moderate stage, and the late stage. At MJHS Menorah, I work with people who are mostly in the moderate to later stages. That's when they need help with their mobility. Some people have some speech and communication problems, and a lot of them need help getting dressed and with bathing and things like that.
Now, can you tell me more about the role caregivers play in assisting those living with Alzheimer's?
Yes, caregivers play a pivotal role in caring for people who have Alzheimer's disease. Specifically, the professional caregivers where I'm working and family caregivers are responsible for helping prepare their foods, helping them to get dressed, helping them to do creative arts therapies like what I'm involved in and leisure activities. So they're really responsible for helping people have a better quality of life.
Now, when I first found this out, I was really shocked just to hear that, for a lot of people with Alzheimer's, summer can be just an interesting time. I had no idea that, the weather could affect people in this way. So, with that being said, with summer approaching, why is it important for caregivers to think carefully when assisting those with Alzheimer's?
Everybody is so excited to get outdoors and enjoy the warm weather, especially with this beautiful weather we've been having the last few weeks. Some things that caregivers might consider is that socialization is a protective factor for brain health. So we want to think about involving people with Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia in activities to help them keep active. We know that sometimes people aren't able to get outside, but there are other things that you can do indoors to keep people active.
Now, we'll definitely get into talking about some ways we can keep people active, but with keeping summer in mind, I understand there's something called sundowning, and that is also something that could affect a lot of people living with Alzheimer's. Can you explain what sundowning is?
Yes, so sundowning is a professional and clinical term that many people who are working with people with Alzheimer's disease use. It usually occurs in the evening hours. Where I'm working, we see sundowning around 2 to 3 in the afternoon. That's the time when people start to become a little bit agitated, irritable. For some people, it can be as extreme as, they feel like they want to go home, or, they can't, or they're calling for their family members. So it's a time that we really want to think about, how can I provide some activities to help keep the person calm. And for us, where I'm working, we use music. We use music a lot. If we know that sundowning is going to occur at 2:30 p.m., for example, we'll try to play music for the people at 2 o'clock, so we might avoid those symptoms from occurring.
And I'm curious to know, what is the background in sundowning? Is it just because, it's been a few hours and now people are just maybe exhausted or feeling tired? Is it kind of like just a coincidence that, during this time, this is also when I guess more people are outside? Or are there any underlying factors as to why we're seeing this behavior at this time?
From my clinical experience, it is something that just naturally occurs when a person has Alzheimer's disease or other types of dementia. It's just something, it's one of those symptoms that occur naturally and unfortunately. Not every single person experiences sundowning. There are some people who have agitation a little bit more in the morning time, but for the majority of people, it is something that occurs in the evening.
Now, keeping that in mind, what are some tips you can share for caregivers so their loved ones with dementia can also enjoy summer experiences?
Absolutely. People with dementia can enjoy outdoor and summer activities. And from my clinical experience and from my research experience, I know that if the person with dementia is calm and if they're happy, that the person who is caring for them will have less distress and less burden. So finding activities that reduce stress but produce joy is key. And one way we might think about doing that is, for some people, we know getting outdoors is really difficult. So from the clinical work, I know that playing music in the background while getting dressed in the morning or while brushing your teeth or even during shower time can make things easier as people are trying to transition to outdoors. And just to think about that fireworks or things that might cause noise. You might, before even going outside, prepare the person for the activity. So you can use technology. We all have YouTube, so we can watch fireworks before we get there so that we know what to expect and talk about that noises might be expected during that time. But then if you're thinking about calm activities and keeping the person engaged outdoors, maybe try the outdoor activities in the morning versus in the evening. Avoid crowds, avoid times that are peak experiences, but make sure you have some fun.
Now, with what activities should individuals avoid if they may be impacted by sundowning?
Yes, I think avoiding evening outdoor activities is probably what makes sense. But there is some research that says that exercise is good for reducing agitation. So if you're able to get out and take a walk, that is an option. Or planning to go and watch the sunset, that's an option as well.
Now, I definitely want to take a moment to highlight you and the work that you've done. I understand that you recently presented at a Women's Alzheimer's Movement Symposium. The event was attended by many notable people, including the First Lady of the United States, which is pretty amazing, and Maria Shriver. Could you share your experience and your research and, what was this entire event and experience like for you?
To say it plainly, it was one of the most incredible experiences that I've had and unexpected. Dr. Biden and Maria Shriver both are huge supporters of Alzheimer's research and women's health research. As a matter of fact, Maria Shriver's Women's Alzheimer's Movement funded my study. on music and caregivers and music for people with dementia. So I was really excited to attend this event with other researchers to be able to present some of my preliminary findings. So I was able to present my research to Maria Shriver and also to Dr. Biden. It was a phenomenal experience for me.
And I also want to highlight, I know that you talked about, just the power of music and the arts. Can you just, take a moment to explain, how that has impacted the work and how you're able to care for people living with Alzheimer's?
Absolutely. I think that a lot of times people think that once they have a diagnosis that it's over and that they can't be active in their communities or active just, personally. But we found that many people, even with the diagnosis of Alzheimer's, can still play the piano. They can still sing their favorite songs. Many who didn't know that they were artists now are very, very creative. And so we try on a daily basis to engage people in the arts so that they can have meaning and purpose in their lives.
And have you also seen, the arts create a sense of community? Because this is something that everyone enjoys regardless of, your background in health. So can you talk about what you've seen and how it's been able to foster community?
Yes. On a daily basis, because we do offer music therapy and art programming and other creative arts, family members usually flock to our sessions because they also want to engage in those types of activities. So we are able to also collaborate with schools like other CUNYs, like Kingsborough Community College. We work with their students and they come and they assist us in our activities as well. So the creative arts actually, you're right, it does help to create a sense of community, and people can do it regardless of whether or not they have Alzheimer's disease or not.
Now, lastly, what's your message to professional caregivers, including many new graduates entering the field now, about how to adapt if an activity isn't going as planned?
I think graduation has just occurred here at Lehman College, so congratulations to all of the graduates. Just know that MJHS.org does have many positions available for those who are in the caring field. But the message that I would give to those who are caring for people with dementia and Alzheimer's disease is to know that if you try something the first time and it doesn't work, it's okay, you can try again. But then also know that there are resources that are available to you, like Caring Kind, the Alzheimer's Association. We have a booklet called MJHS Keys to Dementia Care that is downloadable. So think about how you can engage with other organizations and other resources as you are engaging people with Alzheimer's.
Well, Doctor, I want to thank you so much for joining us and having this, really important conversation and honestly talking about ways that we can still continue to do the things we love. There's always a solution to do the things that we love with the people we love, despite the fact that they may be living with Alzheimer's. I think that's amazing. So thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation.
Well, thank you.
To learn more about the services they offer, please go to their website at mjhs.org. Stay tuned, we have more open for you right after this.
I remember when the Bronx did not really have a media outlet properly representing the people of the Bronx.
BronxNet provides for the community by being a community where people can be empowered to share their voices.
We are in a really great place technologically. We've got all the resources that we need to be effective.
Whether it's through cameras, storytelling, editing, we have provided those services for 30 years.
BronxNet's mission is to be a voice for the community.
To educate, to inform, and to inspire.
And you can be a part of it. We've built studios for you.
welcome back. Upon recognizing the lack of resources for young film enthusiasts in the Bronx, Jackson Van Horn took action and created Vanmoto Media. This media production company provides a platform for a new generation of entertainers and offers valuable assistance to those seeking to advance their film education. Van Horn now joins me to discuss this effort. Jackson, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Now, before we learn more about your efforts to bring a film resource to kids in the Bronx, which is amazing, by the way, I'd love to learn a little bit more about your upbringing with film as a kid.
Yeah, you know, I think I was just always in awe of how films can make you feel, and just being able to be transported to a whole other world, I always, found so interesting. And to be honest, I was also like an only child for 7 years, so I feel like you get bored after a while, and movies were sort of my outlet to be creative and imaginative.
Now, how did you develop your voice and your vision as a filmmaker despite the lack of resources? And where did you get the courage to know that even though it's not around you, it was still something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, I think it's important early on to sort of realize your resources and your access to resources really doesn't define your artistry and your work. I went to a school that did not have a film program. And so every day after school in middle school, I would go home and watch YouTube videos, learning filmmaking, things like that. And so it's really about finding your own resources. And it's really great because it allows you to also think outside the box and troubleshoot in new and creative ways.
Now, I was really impressed to hear that while you were in high school, you launched your own equity and sustainability plan. Tell me a little bit more about that and the importance of representation and diversity in film.
Yeah, I think over the last couple of years, everyone can kind of recognize that representation in film is so important. I just saw a survey, that 52% of Americans could not name a single famous Asian American. 26% were Asian Americans who they surveyed. And so that's central to why representation is important. People deserve to see themselves, and it's also so important to be exposed to other cultures. And so in high school, I was there were a lot of conversations going on about how we could improve this. And one of the ways I thought of was creating guidelines internally at, our own productions, things I was directing, producing, that could sort of outline and guide us to what a set should look like and how to make it inclusive.
And I'm curious to know, as mentioned, this was in high school, so, was there a particular moment that you realized, hey, I'm not seeing myself, in film or television, or was it maybe a friend who, talked about that? What was that moment for you that you knew you wanted to do this?
Yeah, I was applying to film schools at the time, actually, and working on a lot of my essays. And so one of the things that really came up for me as I was reflecting on a lot of the media that I grew up with was that there weren't a lot of positive representations of certain demographics and things like that. And so I really wanted to sort of shift that narrative and really try and improve it, yeah.
Now, can you highlight the new and improved equity plan and the role it plays in ensuring diversity?
Yeah, so when I was founding Vanmoto Media, I wanted us to be a production company, but also to operate in many ways as a think tank. And so we sort of workshopped our old plan, and this one is new and improved. It also is external, so any producer, any company can actually go on our website and look at it, and we educate them on how to monitor diversity and track the data and also analyze it. And we also improved the numbers to really make sure that we're reflecting the demographics of the United States. And so we increase those requirements for all of our productions so that we just make sure we're reflecting the world around us.
And, I was able to see some of those numbers and some of the, just the guidelines, and I thought they were so well thought out. It was actually really amazing to see, because I think that a lot of the time people, when they say diversity, it's one this, one of that, and I think that, those guidelines really help to kind of avoid the tokenism, which I thought was amazing. So I definitely wanted to give you a moment to highlight. Do you want to expand on that? Just, the importance of why you had certain numbers and why you thought certain things out?
Yeah, I think one of the areas that our plan focuses on is behind the camera, because it's not really as visible as in front of the camera. In front of the camera with actors, it's a lot easier to track and see how diversity is being improved, but behind the camera, it's a lot harder to sort of understand that data. And we get really into the weeds and talk about higher positions on set, for certain projects that revolve around certain themes, whether it be racial themes and things like that. It's important to have people behind the camera who are also reflecting those themes.
Now, how did the Vanmoto Media Film School Mentorship Program begin?
Yeah, I was at USC at the time, and a lot of my classmates, I had realized, went to the USC Film Summer Program. And I sort of remembered being in high school really wanting to go to it. It was sort of known as like a secret way to improve your admission chances, and I really wanted to go there. But they didn't offer financial aid, and my family really couldn't afford it at the time, and it was not possible, and it felt like a door shut in my face. And so as I was sort of thinking back to that, there needed to be something to offset that, right? Just because you're having a summer program that essentially gives a push up to people who already have that privilege and already have a leg up. And so I wanted something to offset that, and I was sort of thinking about starting this mentorship program, and I received a direct message on Instagram from actually our first mentee, Nobert. He found me on TikTok. I was just doing different content around filmmaking, and he asked if I could mentor him. I was like, perfect. I was just thinking about this. And so we got to work with him, and then once after that first year, we just didn't stop. It was just such a great experience.
Now, a lot of these kids, students, young adults have access and are able to learn from industry professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about the importance of having those professionals there, and what do they add to the program?
Yeah, so we tend to try and target younger industry professionals just because they're in lower positions in the industry, which is theoretically what these high schoolers will eventually be working in. They're on the ground floor. They're able to really give insight into what's happening in the industry, what the job market looks like. And everyone also has a different path working in entertainment. And so it also gets the mentees to really start thinking about beyond film school, like what jobs do they want to pursue, and what are the different pathways? Because I think you also really have to create your own pathway in entertainment and sort of find your own way to where you want to be.
Now, I'm curious to know, what does a typical day within the program looks like for the kids?
Yeah, so it's actually an asynchronous and remote program, which allows us to reach different parts of the country, and it also allows us to tailor to everyone's busy schedule. So typically, once we choose our applicants, we sit down for a general meeting with them. We really just get to know them, their goals, what schools they want to apply to, and then from there, it's really a lot of the work relies on the students because it is for their college application. So they'll be writing essays, and then we'll jump on a meeting, we'll give notes, talk about that. We also pair them with an additional mentor aside from myself. So there might be one at a different school that they're interested in, and then there's one at USC. And so we're able to really sort of workshop their entire portfolio with them. Yeah.
Now, I really want to highlight, the fact that it's there to help children and students from underrepresented backgrounds, especially, with these applications, with, being a part of these programs. Can you talk about the importance of that? And then I know that, how does it, I guess, make children feel safer that they're in a community with people who kind of have the same background as them?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, of course, as you said, the program is geared towards underrepresented or lower income students. And of course, that came a lot from my background. A lot of the mentors we pair them with, I try to sort of pair them with someone who also has their interests or reflects them racially or just in terms of identity. That way they know there is a seat at the table for them, and that there is a possibility in film school and beyond to see themselves reflected. And so, yeah, that was really just important to me because, as I said before, film schools are associated with lucrative careers, especially the top programs, NYU, USC, Chapman. A lot of places like that does lead to a very strong career. And so, if we're trying to improve diversity in the whole industry, it's that this is a key place to focus on. And so that's why we sort of targeted it.
Now, what are the requirements for joining? And can you talk about the deadline extension?
Yeah, so we look at applicants holistically, almost like schools do. You do have to be in good academic standing. We look at any of your previous work just to sort of make sure not only are you at the level to sort of thrive in these programs, but also grow within them. So we look at that, and then you also do have to come from an underrepresented background. Viewers can find that information on our application. And then, yes, our deadline has been extended to July 14th. We just want to make sure we're reaching as many students as possible.
Now, in what ways does the program expand on networking opportunities, which is so important in the field of media, television, all that networking is crucial. So how does this program help with that?
Yeah, so a lot of our program relies on what I call organic networking. It's not like we're having mixers where, everyone's in a suit and tie and trying to get each other's LinkedIn. A lot of it comes from the people they're meeting in the meetings, whether it be their mentors or the industry professionals. It's sort of getting to know them, and they get to establish a very natural rapport between each other and have that door be open. A lot of the mentors and people we're bringing in to taught to them work above the line in higher positions, typically hiring positions. And so if they have a film set, that they're trying to find crew for, ideally they would also reach out to our mentees and talk to them about it.
Now, can you share, maybe some quick success stories of, maybe some people that you saw when they first came in, and then how they, how they've grown since they left?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I think all of our mentees are successful in their own right. Like, it's such a big deal to go to college. Some of them are the first in their family, but Nobert, who I mentioned earlier, who was the first one, he's entering his sophomore year at USC in the same major as I was, film and television production. Just being able to see him blossom and bloom, and he's really also voiced the amount of resources that USC has been able to provide him and what that means to him. And yeah.
That's amazing. I love to hear. I think this is an amazing program. What do you hope to see for the future of Vanmoto Media?
Yeah, we work primarily in development right now, so we have some cool projects in the pipeline. We just shot a project in London with these two directors, Natasha and Beth Perkin, and it starred Jack Grazer from Shazam at Pixar's Luca. That was really awesome, but I also want us to continue operating as a think tank in many ways. I think diversity and inclusion has sort of fallen under a lot of criticism, especially by conservative politicians and just the general cultural sphere that we're in. But at the end of the day, it's central to who we are as a company, and it's not going anywhere. And so we definitely stand by that and want to continue doing work that supports that.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. This is an amazing program. It's always great to see, a BronxNet alum, do amazing things. And I love what you're providing, as you mentioned, for people who are from backgrounds that aren't usually represented in media. So once again, thank you so much for joining us and having this discussion.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
If you or someone may or would like to sign up for the Vanmoto Media Film School Mentorship Program, please go to their website at vanmotomedia.com. We have to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more Open after this.
Hello, my name is Tyrone Lowe. I host a show at BronxNet called The Legends, where I bring real legends, DJs, upcoming artists, actually people from the past that's into entertainment. I want to thank BronxNet. First of all, I want to thank for the 30 years of them actually being active here. It has opened a lot of doors for me to the point where I'm branching off to have my own network. Fulfill your dreams here. That's all I have to say.
Happy anniversary to BronxNet, 30 years. Wow, brings back so many memories. This exact studio that I'm in right now, I broadcast out of here. This must have been around 2003. I mean, time flies by so quickly. I started out here, it was either Mr. Gary Axelbank and Mr. Batch with Lady Morsar. We used to do a show here called In the Neighborhood. And I brought so many different guests on this show. To be able to bring your voice to the community is very powerful. To bring hip hop and spirituality, I brought my pastor in this same studio, Pastor Gino Jennings, and I'm sure you guys know who Pastor Gino Jennings is. That's rough. And some disciplined teaching. BronxNet is something that we need to uplift our communities, because this is a platform that we can come, and if you have a vision that's in your mind going into your heart, you can use it to do uplifting things for your community.
Welcome back. Under the New York State Home and Community Renewal, the State of New York Mortgage Agency, also known as SONYMA, offers low-interest mortgage loans and programs to help qualified buyers purchase their first home. Senior Vice President of SONYMA, Darrelle Forde, joins me to discuss the agency and the work they do to help people achieve their goals towards owning a home. Darrelle, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, there are so many organizations out there or agencies out there that help people with, loans or, owning their first home. But can you tell me more about SONYMA and the work that you do?
So awesome. So SONYMA creates and develops mortgage products to enable first-time homebuyers to purchase a home. We partner with about 80 lenders across the state to make sure that those lenders are encouraged to make homeownership happen for first-time homebuyers. Our mortgage programs are low interest rate, low cost, and we have a lot of add-on benefits that really target the hurdles that most first-time homebuyers encounter.
Now, what are some areas of the home buying process SONYMA assists with?
So our mortgage product, right, is designed so that a first-time homebuyer can be approved. Often, when compared to somebody who's already owned a home, they have less down payment, they're less familiar with the program. So one of the key ways that we help first-time homebuyers is that we require homebuyer education. And we have found that that enables people to be successful homeowners and lowers their default rate and potentially losing their home in the future. Also, we limit the fees that the lenders can charge to the first-time homebuyer so that the entire process is less. One of the things that people may be familiar with is MI or mortgage insurance. And at SONYMA's program, we only charge mortgage insurance until you've paid off about 20% of the home value. And so these are all ways that keep that mortgage product successful for first-time home buyers.
Now, you mentioned home buyer education. Can you talk about the importance of that? I know for a lot of people living in New York, especially maybe people who have dreams of owning a home, this could be another world for them. So could you talk about, just the importance of learning everything that comes with owning a home and, the steps needed to buy one?
Absolutely. There's, I think people think that their journey to home ownership is about saving money. It's actually about informing yourself. And that is the most powerful way to make sure that you can be approved for a home. And so SONYMA requires first-time home buyer education, and we partner with HUD certified housing counselors throughout the state who can guide first-time home buyers through the application process, the budgeting process, whatever it takes so that they can be positioned financially to purchase a home. The journey to home ownership is a different one for each person, right? For some people, maybe it takes 6 months, maybe it takes 6 years. Being equipped with the information that you need, right, can help shorten that journey or at least inform a first-time home buyer about what they need to do to purchase a home.
Now, what are the eligibility requirements for joining the program?
So SONYMA's primary eligibility is that you must be a first-time home buyer or a veteran, right? Veterans do not have to be first-time home buyers. And if you're not a first-time home buyer, you can purchase in what's called a target area, certain areas that are in need of economic stimulation. One of the big myths is that what is a first-time home buyer? So first-time home buyer is anyone who has not owned a home in the past 3 years. So folks who maybe owned a home years ago, maybe through divorce or something, they lost it, right? After 3 years, it's a clean slate. You can benefit from our program.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I had heard a lot of people maybe walk away from opportunities because they thought that they don't qualify, or maybe they live in a home already. So thank you so much for sharing that and clarifying. Can you provide more information on SONYMA's 2 primary mortgage programs?
Sure. SONYMA has 2 primary programs called Achieve the Dream, which is for households that are below 80% of the average median income. And our other program called the Low Interest Rate Program is for households above 80% of the average median income. And so in a very expensive city like New York, that means that households pretty much of 3 or more persons, including children, who make as much as $200,000 are eligible for a program. So that means a lot of New Yorkers are eligible. And one of the misconceptions is some people think, oh, I make too much money to get any kind of assistance. And so all of those home buyers are eligible for our most popular program, which is called our Down Payment Assistance Program. You can add that to either the Achieve the Dream program or the Low Interest Rate program, and SONYMA will give you $15,000 towards the purchase of a home. It can be used as down payment, closing costs, lots of things, and that's just one of our popular programs.
Now, buying a home just across the nation, is a challenge, or, takes a lot of work for a lot of people. And I can imagine that in New York City, it's doesn't make it any easier. You know, what are some of the challenges New Yorkers face when they are looking to own a home, and how does SONYMA help with that?
So, as you rightly said, nationally it's very challenging to purchase a home, but even more so in an expensive city like New York City. And so there are lots of challenges. Those are the cost of homes, the availability of affordable homes, the income needed to purchase a home. And so SONYMA helps first-time homebuyers by having programs that target all of those things. So, and also by partnering with as many other partners as a home buyer can get assistance from. So we offer down payment assistance. As I said, we've got our primary program that's always available, $15,000. We also have expanded programs that offer as much as $30,000 in down payment assistance, which does not have to ever be paid back as long as you stay in the home for 10 years. We also have a program that we're very excited about, which we launched at the end of last year, which assists historically disadvantaged populations by offering them what's called inclusive underwriting guidelines. So perhaps they may not have been approved with traditional underwriting because the way they manage their finances is just as sound, just as good, but may not be captured in a credit score, right? SONYMA does not have any minimum credit score. So our inclusive underwriting may take into account, you know, perhaps immigrant communities and others who don't use banks in the same way, who may use a lot of cash and don't use credit cards or things like that. So our inclusive underwriting, our down payment assistance, our low interest rates, and the fact that we cap the fees that lenders can charge homebuyers all work together to help make homeownership possible. And the key element of partnering with nonprofits and other organizations that give assistance, SONYMA's program allows you to layer in as many grants and assistance as you are eligible for. So if SONYMA gives you $30,000 under a program and your employer perhaps has a home ownership program, you can combine that. Maybe a nonprofit organization, and there are many great ones in New York City that have grants. You can combine that with SONYMA's program, and so that can help a lot of home buyers achieve home ownership.
Now, I really want to highlight this because when I saw this number, I thought this was pretty amazing. SONYMA provided $1.2 billion throughout New York State and over $75.8 million in mortgage loans in the Bronx.
That's right.
Those are pretty amazing numbers. Can you just expand on the significance of that effort?
Well, you know, every year we go out, in the last couple of years, we've done about between $425 million and $450 million in lending throughout the state, but our mortgage products are aimed at the people who need it most. And so in New York City, not only do we lend on 1 family, 2 family, 3 and 4 family homes, we also lend on cooperatives and condominiums. Cooperatives are a really affordable option for home ownership within the city of New York. And so our down payment assistance, giving folks up to $30,000, helps them get the 20% down payment that many cooperative programs require. And we also work with nonprofit developers who develop housing that's specifically affordable, so that by those two, the developer partnering with SONYMA, those are things that help make it possible. And we are continuing to frankly give away money, right? And so we want to get more people to apply. It's really awareness that we need, so that I'd love to increase that number.
Now, just in general, you know, we talked about some of the challenges. You know, just expanding on that, why do you think it may be hard for so many people to buy their first home, especially in the year 2024?
Wow. So interest rates have increased, right? And that impacts everything, the cost of everything. So perhaps folks were able to save more money 5 years ago, right? But now the grocery bill is higher. Now, you know, their rent is higher, and so it's harder to save. And so some of our approaches in terms of expanding down payment assistance and also allowing folks to be creative in how they apply is one of the ways we help. You know, it doesn't always have to be the traditional nuclear family that purchases a home. If you've got a bestie or a sibling and you guys can put in together, that's a household as far as we're concerned, and you can both purchase a home together. So Also, we have our add-on products, right? So we've got a remodel program, so you can buy a fixer-upper that might be a little bit cheaper.
Oh, wow, that's
right?
amazing.
And
yeah.
we will lend you the money to purchase and renovate. So when people are looking in New York City, right, I think people should also keep in mind, after doing all their homework about what they're available, is that it may not look like your dream home today, right? But once your name is on the deed, it will be beautiful, right? And you can use our program to do renovation when you purchase the home, and just think of it as a journey. And so the home that you buy on day one, right, that might not be your perfect home, but it might be in 2 years or 3 years, right? And so just people have to be a little more creative and do their homework.
Now, can you just let us know what are some preparation tips that could help those looking to own their first home apply with SONYMA?
So, great question. And so the first thing folks have to do is make sure that they've got their own finances in order, and don't be deterred if you had financial challenges in the past. SONYMA really is looking at your last 2 years of financial management, right? So if you're gainfully employed, right, you've got stable income and you've been managing your finances successfully the past 2 years, that's a great start. And then also do your homework. Know what SONYMA can offer you, and also see who else has something that you can offer so that you can combine those things, right? Sometimes it takes a village to make it happen, and SONYMA is happy to be part of that village, but maybe your employer has a home ownership grant that you can partner with SONYMA. Maybe there's a nonprofit in your neighborhood that also has a grant. So doing that homework goes a long way to making home ownership possible.
I think this is an amazing program, and as I mentioned, here in New York City, a lot of people, you know, we're just so used to renting all the time, and people do have dreams of owning a home, but as mentioned, it's so challenging, and so people get deterred, you know, from looking into it. But I think it's so amazing that you were able to come here and explain, you know, what actually goes on, because I think also even learning about it can be a little bit overwhelming and deters people.
Yeah, you know, and so if folks visit SONYMA's website, we list where we'll be. We also have regular sort of call-ins so that people can learn about our programs, and if they reach out to us, we can refer them to nonprofit organizations who can also guide them into other programs that they can partner with the SONYMA program. So it's you know, no one can advocate for you better than yourself. So the first step is reaching out and getting that information, and you'll find that there are people that want to help you.
Well, Darrelle, I want to thank you so much for joining us and having this, you know, discussion and just educating our community on what they can do, you know, if they are looking to own their dream home. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for letting me share this information.
To find out more about the programs HCR offers, please go to their website on your screen below. We have come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Jaime on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.